being able to correct his puppy. Yeah. So your question is lovely. Yeah, ultimately, it was an opportunity that I saw. Anything else? Please.
In terms of your client base, do you see a recurrence of loyal or expats or local customers?
Yeah, good question. So, client base is a great word. We're a non-profit group, so we just call them people. But we are definitely, one of our projects feeds into another. So if people come on one, they often will become curious and will go to others. When people come to the coffee house conversation to sit with strangers, over social dining, they do come back and they have a completely different experience depending on who they're sitting in front of. From different parts of the world, but also it depends what mood you're in. You do respond to the same questions differently, and also they've had a month to think about the questions, and so they've kind of reflected on them and sharpened up their stories, because the question menu is ultimately designed to produce good stories, and we all love good stories. And somehow it's gone out of fashion to tell a story, with a beginning and a middle and an end. But at our events, because the questions are ultimately a biography of you, and people tell stories about their experience. And it's great, if those stories come from Brazil, from Moscow, they're very different stories to the ones that you might know. So most people who come on our events are new, for sure, but some of the people like the approach, and if they go on one walk, then they go on another. We do a walk about why Vienna's got the highest quality of life in the world, and that is definitely interesting to lots of conference visitors. And that's a big opportunity, because conference visitors don't usually walk around Vienna. They're working quite hard, but if they know that in 2 hours they can get a kind of contemporary idea of some copy and paste ideas that they can take back home, they definitely do come on our walks, which is great. And also because they want to meet the locals, because conferences exist in a kind of bubble, we've got people like Vituismus who present our work, or FM4 who regularly will, if I call up FM4, they will always say, hey, yeah, please come on the morning show because we don't have enough guests. So that's a nice opportunity to open up some new stories. And teachers send different groups of students on our walk, because of course they've got a new group every year. So the teacher remains the same, but the students are different, and therefore, we've got that kind of repeat business. But it is a challenge, to be honest, to, people often will think I've been to that, I've kind of seen it and done it, but then you're relying on recommendations. We're on TripAdvisor, we're on Facebook, and we're in the guidebooks, which helps to some extent. But word of mouth is the best way, of course, in every industry. You want people to feel loyal and engaged with what you do. Another question? Yep. Where are you from?
I'm from Bosnia.
Bosnia, yeah. My wife is called Kalčić, Monica Kalčić, and her father grew up speaking Croatian, and Kalčić is a name from Herzegovina.
I assume, since you mentioned it 2 times as an example, so I thought that you had some kind of connection.
Yeah.
So, my name is Ada, last name Čekić.
Hello.
And my question was regarding basically the list of questions which you provide to people who come to these social meetings or events. Since the conversation by itself has some sort of natural flow, do some people consider it as limiting if they need to go strictly to these questions?
Yeah, they do not. The conversations are completely private. It's not a test, where you've got to answer every question. It's like a restaurant menu where you select things from different parts. There's a starter, and then a main course of questions, and then dessert, and then coffee. So a lot of people just leave the question menu completely and talk to each other. It's not necessary. It's simply that the question menu builds into a biography, so we recommend you use it. I'm not going to force anybody to use it. The conversations are completely private. Yeah.
But in terms do you have also group conversations? Do you have debates or something like that? Because
we want to start some debates, but not in a strong. I hope we're starting a debate now. So in that sense, we're very happy to present to you. But no, it is exactly about the mutual trust and revelation of 2 people sitting in front of each other, with some distance to the other people. Occasionally, we've had people from India, for example, where the man and the wife wanted to sit together. They kind of didn't trust, they were too shy, and that's okay, but it changes the conversation. I mean, if I'm sitting next to my wife, I say very different things than if I'm not sitting next to my wife. you know, because you can kind of talk about your partner if they're not there, and you tell different stories. So we definitely wanted to separate people so that there's more of a cultural exchange, and you're not, you know, the way some couples finish off each other's sentences, which is kind of irritating. So we want to take them out of their comfort zone and make sure that they're saying things that they, you know, they're not controlling each other about what they can say. But no, for sure, many people find it quite disrespectful to be given a menu of questions. They say, come on, I've got my own questions, you know. But that's a question of whether you feel comfortable talking to a stranger for 2 hours, because it is very strange to sit with a stranger and to talk about, you know, your love life or money or, you know, your relationship to your mum. We see it a bit like sitting on a train or an airplane with a stranger, and sometimes you can have a really big conversation where you open up about everything because you think, well, I'll never see this person again, you know, there's no consequences. So in that sense, it's a little bit like Freudian, you know, analysis, where you listen to each other's perspective, and it can, people surprise each other with how much they say, you know, which is deeply un-Viennese, really, to open up in that way. I think other countries are more comfortable, you know, telling very, I mean, famously Americans will tell you all about, you know, their health situation, you know, maybe a bit more than you want to hear. Yeah. Okay? Thank you for the question, yeah. Another question? Yes?
So, space and place is only based in Vienna.
I'll bring your own microphone.
Sorry. Space and place is based in Vienna so far. If you had the chance, would you grow to other countries as well? Or other cities?
Yep. Would we work in other cities? Yes, we already have. We made a Munich ugly tour, and the city council paid for the tour, which is a bit kinky, a bit odd that they would celebrate how ugly they are. Munich is also a beautiful city, and I don't know Munich, and so which buildings should we tour? We asked the readers of the Süddeutsche Zeitung, and we created a Facebook page, and then we started a big debate about what's ugly in your city, you know, and it's great fun when people are responding to what's ugly and beautiful. So it was the people of Munich who chose the buildings, and I just toured them and discussed them. I hate Rococo architecture, Baroque, and if you don't know the style, Google it. It's very flowery and busy, you know. I like it where form follows function, you know, where there's a kind of bit of order and clean lines. And Rococo is this, often you get it in Italian, it's all over Italy, where there's too much gold, you know, it's like Kim Kardashian, you know, it's very bling bling style of architecture, because to me that's un-Christian, just to fill up your whole church with gold. You think, well, what about the poor people, you know, why have you spent all the money on yourselves here? So, you know, we wanted to start a debate about what is beauty. If you Google ugly buildings, you only find new buildings. So we're going to do lots of these projects in Hamburg next year, but it tends, we are 6 people, it's not just me, but the other 5 are Austrians. And so they do a lot of the communications in German and the website. I don't really look after our website, but yeah, we're going to do some of the same things in Hamburg, but their project will always, we need to adapt it to make it feel local. We don't just want to parachute in a project that works in Vienna, we want to make it feel like it belongs. I think the feeling of belonging is a beautiful thing in a city, and I think Vienna doesn't make it so easy to belong as some other cities, and therefore we work at that by having a big group of locals who really care about their city, walk around it, and you know, they tell me stories, and that feeds into the next tour. You know, so each tour is better than the one before, because I am not like an authority on anything. I definitely respect and acknowledge that the locals know more than me, or they know different things to me. Yeah, it's not that scalable, really, our project, because I want to keep it kind of quite intimate and personal. And I have a very strong connection with Vienna, and if it starts to feel like you can do it anywhere, you know, we definitely wanted to tell some new Vienna stories. Yeah. Good question. I don't know. I would need to find more people who have the sort of skill set that I have, in terms of background in journalism and communications, but also a kind of curiosity about telling new stories. Yeah. Anybody else? Yes. I'll bring you the microphone. Okay. Please.
As you said before, you would like to build an adult park in Nashmark. So I would say the most biggest challenge for you is the financial problems. So how can you cope with that? So do you have any like sponsors or any other stuff like that?
Yeah. It's true, we have a tiny budget. I don't earn all that much money, but so the question of how we will finance the adult park, we're going to build it in stages. We're going to start off small, and we will be getting most of our funding from the city of Vienna. Stadt Wien is extremely generous. People don't, in Britain, people usually vote for the party that offers them the lowest tax, also in the United States, and in Vienna that's not true. People typically vote for a party which expects lots of tax, but people can see the consequences in quality of life, you know, how clean the streets are, public transport for €1 a day, you know, low crime, poor people live well in Vienna, and the inequality is much lower than it is in Milan or Moscow or London, and that's, you feel that when you leave the city and then come back. You notice that, you know, you're not confronted by so many homeless people or so many super wealthy people as you would be in other cities. So Stadt Wien, the Bezirk has some funding. Vienna is not a city which is so comfortable with sponsorship as some other cities, and definitely if you want the city council to do something, it's almost impossible to also have a sponsor, because unless it's very closely allied, there's lots of politics in Vienna. It's very bureaucratic. There's a lot of people whose job it is to stop new projects happening, and so therefore we have to play a delicate political game. But the city of Vienna has lots and lots of money for new squares. You know, I mean, the public transport doesn't really cost €1 a day. It's simply that they judge that a priority. And I think this project will say some new things about Vienna and play, and also it's going to be focused on Sundays. It will be there 24 hours a day, but Sundays will be the day where we really want people to come and enjoy good food. We're going to have a little caravan which will cook up slow food from Vienna, and good wine, good coffee, and some interesting cakes, and celebrate local food culture. I think the food in Vienna is amazing. I really like it a lot. So yeah, the answer is no sponsors somehow. Anybody else? Any other questions? Any responses? Would anybody like to? Do you all dream of setting up your own business, or do you want to work for a big corporation? How many of you are going to set up your own business? One. Okay. Two. Okay. So in fact, you imagine yourselves more kind of fitting into the tourism industry that already exists. Because the good thing about setting up your own business is that you can play, you can do stuff that nobody else is doing right now. Whereas, you know, you work for a corporation, certainly if you start at the bottom, you're not going to be able to innovate in quite the same way. And there is lots of funding available in Vienna, for example, from the city to do new things, which is beautiful. You know, it just takes time. Tell me, what's you put your hand up, what kind of business are you going to create? Do you mind me asking?
I would like to overtake our family business, but I would like to change the focus of the business. What is it? Now it's mountain biking, and I would like to focus more on wellness and stuff.
Yeah, sounds good. Who else put their hand up? Come on, I'm going to ask you. Yeah.
I want to open up my own cafe, which is organic, vegetarian, and vegan, and sustainable, and green. That's my goal.
Okay, whereabouts? Which town?
I think more in UK than
in UK?
Yes.
Right. You certainly will have some rivals in the UK. Britain's way ahead of Austria on vegetarianism. Yeah. Anybody else who has some separate business you put hand up?
Well, I currently already started the kind of business as a milk fresh delivery company.
Which
like
delivery?
A milk delivery company. Basically, like a HelloFresh, Blue Apron, Marley Spoon. Yeah, I already started in Ukraine, so slowly growing.
Congratulations, if you're already doing it. Good for you, yeah. Anybody else going to set up a business? Too shy to say it? Consider it, please. You know, consider what we have done in 5 years. There was no Space and Place 5 years ago, so you know, you can grow fast if you want to be a bit cheeky and reach out to some journalists, but also to cross the line between tourism and adventures, let's say, in the city, and storytelling. Tourism can be storytelling, but it isn't always, and I think, you know, there's an increasing number of tourists who do want to look beyond the cliches and the surface and get into the groove of the city and go home having met some locals. So it's a very fertile territory to be able to bring the two groups together, if you can think of fresh ways to do it in your town. Also, if you're working for a big corporation, you know, for sure. You know, the hotels in Vienna would love to get lots of locals into the hotels, because that would be even more interesting to the visitors. You know, a lot of the bars in the big hotels are empty at night time, and that's a missed opportunity in both directions. You know, for the Viennese, to go for great cocktails and, you know, a kind of classy atmosphere. But in fact, there's no atmosphere in most of the big hotels, which is a shame. Anybody else? No? Thank you. I wish you all a happy Christmas. By the way, if you visit the other Austrian hotels, thank you, Jolene, the other universities in Vienna, they don't clap when they like what you said. They knock on the table, which is really weird. I think that's across the German-speaking world, but it's super odd. You know, it sounds like they're a bit angry, but then you realise that that's kind of Austrian clapping. It's completely different. So I'm happy to have global clapping going on here. Thank you.
Thank you, Eugene. I just need to keep you for 10 more minutes because I would like to say 2 things. But first, I wanted to thank you very much for sharing your business idea, for sharing your what you're doing for